Hey everyone, my name is Annie Rubin, otherwise known as the Autoimmune Dietitian, and today I am talking about the connection between stress and inflammation. So if you haven't watched my videos before and you don't know who I am, my name is Annie. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I work with clients who are struggling with autoimmune and inflammatory conditions. When I work with these clients, I really help them implement a personalized nutrition roadmap designed to improve mobility, concentration, and energy levels so they can live the lives that they are supposed to be living. Okay, so stress and inflammation go hand in hand. And especially, after, work has been stressful or you're coming off of the holidays, you can develop flares. And it's not surprising that this happens because when you're stressed, typically your body responds in a way that, might be a little bit detrimental and can, it's something that triggers inflammation. So today I'm really going to talk about what is the stress response, how it's connected to inflammation, and what are some things that you can start doing to start managing your stress better. So before I jump in, I just need to attach a disclaimer to this video that the information in today's talk is not a substitute for the diagnosis, treatment, or care of disease by a medical provider. This is for informational purposes only. So please contact your qualified health professional for any changes to your medical care. All right, so what is our body's response to stress? So we as humans have always been surrounded by stressful situations. Back in the day, stress was running from a tiger or worrying about a war or a famine. Nowadays, stress comes in the form of jobs, family demands, COVID, raising kids, financial constraints, commuting, sitting in traffic, and social media. Also lack of sleep. That could all of those things are stressful. However, our body can't distinguish between the stress of running from a lion or a tiger or the stress of commuting. So the response is exactly the same no matter what kind of danger or stress your body is feeling. So what happens when your body perceives stress? So it recognizes that it needs energy and it needs it fast. So your body basically goes into crisis mode. Your hypothalamus, which is located in your brain, triggers your sympathetic nervous system. So this is the side of your nervous system that revs things up. It essentially triggers your adrenal and pituitary glands to release hormones, including epinephrine, corticotropin releasing hormone, adenocorticotropic hormone, and cortisol. Those are all a mouthful. I know you don't have to memorize them, but just, be aware that those are the hormones that are released in response to stress. So these hormones cause a number of physiological changes to help you survive a stressful situation, like running from a tiger or giving a presentation in front of a large group of people, if that is what makes you nervous. So these hormones help to increase your heart rate. It sharpens your senses. It helps to release blood sugar into your bloodstream to give you that energy. And once the danger or stress passes, your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. So this is a side of your nervous system that really calms things back down, kind of puts the brakes on the stress response. So cortisol and your other hormones the production should go back to normal. So since most of us are chronically stressed, our parasympathetic nervous system isn't kicking in like it should. So your cortisol levels remain high. This causes your blood glucose or your blood sugar to spike, and we get an exaggerated insulin response. And because of that, our blood sugar tanks, leaving us feel very tired. It can make us hungry, and it can also lead to sugar cravings. So the other thing that high cortisol does, it promotes fat storage. Especially in your midsection where we have more cortisol receptors. And that is kind of one piece of where inflammation comes in because fat tissue tends to be a little bit more pro-inflammatory. So if you're constantly stressed and you're starting to gain some fat in your midsection, that can be inflammatory. Okay, so what else does this have to do with inflammation? So when your body's chronically stressed, your cortisol becomes dysregulated, meaning it remains at high levels for a very prolonged period of time. And eventually, over time, if it stays at those high levels, your cortisol levels can drop and not recover. So then you have consistently low cortisol. So Why is cortisol dysregulation a problem? So under normal conditions, when stress isn't present, cortisol is actually an anti-inflammatory hormone. It binds to glucocorticoid receptors and it helps to reduce inflammation. So when you have a prolonged, release of cortisol, so your cortisol remains high for a very long time, or you have high cortisol production, it actually stops binding to these receptors. Or the receptors become desensitized to cortisol. So it's a very similar mechanism as how insulin resistance works, where the insulin receptors stop working and it stops being efficient in taking your blood sugar into cells. So your blood sugar levels also remain high. So if you're familiar with that, it's basically the same concept that your glucocorticoid receptors are not recognizing cortisol. And so they're not, using it to signal other processes in your body. So when cortisol can't bind to these glucocorticoid receptors, the feedback loop between cortisol and corticotropin releasing hormone breaks down. So remember, corticotropin releasing hormone is one of the hormones that's released in the stress response. However, when cortisol is released, usually that signals the corticotropin releasing hormone to stop production because it recognizes that the stress response has happened and then it needs to stop. So if this kind of breaks down, you don't slow down your corticotropin releasing hormone production. So that hormone remains elevated, which is a problem for inflammation and for your immune system. Corticotropin releasing hormone has been shown to activate inflammatory mast cells and thus stimulates your immune system. So the other issue with elevated cortisol is it affects your sleep. Cortisol is a hormone that wakes you up in the morning and it keeps you going. So if you've ever had your cortisol mapped out, where there's saliva tests that you can do to track your cortisol levels throughout the day. Typically, what you want to see is, right before you wake up, your cortisol levels should shoot up. And that is what gets you out of bed and gets you going. And then as the day goes on, it should, taper off in the evening as your melatonin starts to ramp up to help you fall asleep. So if your cortisol is constantly high, your melatonin production might be affected. And that melatonin, again, affects how fast you fall asleep and stay asleep. So over time, chronic stress causes cortisol production to tank, which makes it hard for you to get up in the morning. So it's kind of twofold, right? You either have really high cortisol, so you're not able to fall asleep, and then over time, if your cortisol production has just been consistently high for so long, and then it starts to drop to really low levels, you're not going to be able to wake up in the morning, and that leaves you very tired. Okay, so what can you do to better manage your stress? So I'll be going into this a little bit more detail in another video later on, but there are a number of things that you can do to start reducing your stress levels. And I always say the best way to start a new habit is to tack it onto something that you already do. So here are my top 3 tips for starting to reduce your stress. 1, get outside. Several studies have shown that 20 minutes in nature, or just being outside in general, in the sunshine or the clouds or the rain, wherever you live, whatever kind of weather you experience, snow, for instance. So 20 minutes can drastically reduce your stress levels. So you can sit outside while you're eating lunch, or, if you work out, take the workouts outside for some fresh air. If you are a coffee drinker, drink coffee and read your paper outdoors. If you have a pet, take your pet for a walk. Again, very simple things that you can do to get outside that are things that you already do, right? So tack it on to something that you already consistently do. Okay, the second one is deep breaths. Focusing on your breath, especially the exhale, helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Since you already breathe, this one is fairly easy. So find 5 minutes, waiting for your coffee to brew, waiting for your shower to heat up, reading the paper. When you first wake up in the morning, breathe in and breathe out. So there's several techniques that you can do. Find the one that works for you. Some people say breathe, count in for 4 and count out for 6. Really helps to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. Some people like to do an even, 5 in and 5 out and keep it simple and focus on the counting. It can be almost meditative doing that. Some people say, breathe in for half the amount of time that you breathe out. So breathe in for 4, breathe out for 8. Again, just kind of focusing on your breathing and taking really good deep breaths and then pushing all the air out. That can help really activate that parasympathetic nervous system and help you reduce your stress. The last one I'm going to kind of mention here is gentle movement. So moving your body, but not too much, is a great way to reduce stress. Since we all trying to, move our body more and get more active, dedicating 5 minutes to working out a day is a really quite easy thing. And that might be all you need. Start off slow. If you're starting off from scratch, you haven't worked out ever, 5 minutes. Again, tack it onto something that you typically do. So you can do some squats while you're brushing your teeth. You can do wall push-ups while you're waiting for your coffee to brew. You can do calf raises while you're waiting for your kid to come out at school. Again, really simple things that you can do to just move your body a little bit and, again, do it with something that you're already doing. So just to recap, today we focused on, what the stress response is, the hormones involved and how those are affected when you have chronic stress, how it's tied to inflammation, and then my top 3 tips for working on stress management. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a line in the comments. You can reach out to me. My email is listed on my profile. You can shoot me a DM. You can go to my website and contact me that way, AnnieRubin.com. If you like my videos and you want more, please hit that subscribe button. I try to, put these out every week, more or less. So, keep watching. Keep the comments coming. I would love to hear feedback on, what you're interested in learning about. But, every week I'll put out something new about, the connection between diet, inflammation, and autoimmune diseases. So have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.